So in this lesson, we are going to look at production, and specifically we are going to look at production quality assurance. Production quality assurance. So in production quality assurance, we first need to know what production is, but most of us know the word production comes from the word produce, which also another substitute word for it is manufacturing. Others use other words such as processing, and then so processing is in the due process of production. Then what we output is the product. So the process that a raw material has to undergo from the time of input into the production system through processing under various stages until the finished product is developed is what we call production. So for production to take place, there is a production system, or what we call a production process. Usually when organizations are planning to undertake production, they have got to decide on which products to actually produce. So when the organization decides on the particular product to produce, that product is usually based on the quality or the demands of the population or the market. Usually for production to be effective, like what you've produced will be sold into the market, you need to get informed on what are the needs of the people in the community, what we call needs assessment. So you tailor the product size, the product test or fashion or model based on what is going to happen in the market. What do the people need? That's why for for production to take place, there should be a needs assessment. When we assess the needs of the community, then we can decide on which kind of product we need to take. However, it is not about only what we see as the needs of the people. Other producers look at what we call the challenges that people face while they are using some of the products in the market. For example, there was a time where there was a detergent, which usually I don't want to mention the names of the product sometimes, but there was a detergent which you use in laundry, in washing clothes, and the market was complaining that that detergent smells much, even on clothes. After you have rinsed the clothes, it smells, continues smelling on the clothes. So by being with your colleagues and you've gone for an outing, somebody says, "I used this detergent." So that was the complaint from the market. And another producer looked at that as a weakness of the product and came up and said that let me produce a detergent which does not smell, that even when you have finished rinsing, a person cannot know that you actually washed. So that was after examining that there was a weakness in one of the products, and then he addressed it in the product they were producing, and that product actually caught on the market and they sold much of it. Another product which was also a detergent was like it could it could wear people's hands. You wash it, and the hands start, the skin starts like peeling. So another one now studies that and addresses it in the production process. Now, when you do not know what are the challenges people are meeting with some products, you could again produce another product which could also cause the very challenges. That's why research here in production is very key, especially researching related products which are related to the one you're intending to produce. Some producers, such as those who produce benzes, tend to, they produce benzes, one, they want them to look so nice and strong. So drivers of benzes are looking at strength, and also uh, they are also looking at the design, the mod. But some others buy it because of the brand, which is a marketing attribute. So the producers of, of cars such as BMW that are made from German, Benzes that are made from German, uh, even Volvo, those vehicles, they are also making sure that because the brands of German are known to be strong, so they make sure that even when the new person is coming onto the market, makes sure that he produces the strongest car that will also rhyme with the what is expected of what comes from that country. So, but other car producers can again, instead of looking at the strength of the engine and also how posh the car is, they can look at portability and then center on those who need portability, and others want a car which is fuel efficient. They come low income or middle income. I can't afford a car that uses fuel of 100,000, where another one can use 30,000. So we'll go for that one that is fuel efficient. So at production, at deciding what to produce, one has got to identify what is the market that I'm producing this product for, and what specifically does the market need out of this product that the market should identify my product with. So you produce that product to satisfy that need. Like some people produce vehicles specifically for ladies, and then we open the car, there's where you place and have a comb getting out, and you comb a little. Somewhere you place, and the shoes you can put them there. Hmm? And the mirrors. So they tailor the product towards that they intend to see. Just imagine you're producing clothes, but you don't know who is wear it, whether a man or a woman, or a child or an elderly person. How would it be? So what usually happens in the boardrooms where initiation of production is going to take place, they usually say, what are we going to produce? And then for who? Then they study who actually needs to, what does that person, or what do those categories of people actually need. When you go to you go to Sudan, Sudani people have never seen a hill. Those who have never left their country have never seen a hill. The country, you cannot see a hill unless somebody is making sweet potatoes, the heap of. So they get surprised to see that there are places where there are hills, you climb and then it's low. So vehicles, if one was to could produce vehicles for Sudan, then the strength of the engine is not that necessary unless the car is going to be carrying heavy loads, because the car is not going to climb any hill. But one who is selling a vehicle that is going to work in Kabari, those places of Tisoro, those actually should be very strong engine driven vehicles. So when you do not know what problems people are likely to face while using the product, then you cannot prepare it uh, very well. So that is one. In product designing, you need to look at the needs of the people, the target market, what you call the target market, but also look at the the challenges that the people have have faced while using related products. That's why here in production you also rely on data collected on what we call competitor competition analysis. My competitors, what are those unique things that they do? Usually you do what we call a SWOT what analysis. You look at the strength, weakness, and then opportunity, the opportunities. So so that you are grounded, you know what is going to to be surrounding your product. That's very key. So that's then afterwards you come up with what we call the product uh, design. The product design. The product design. How do you want the product to look, and how do you like the product to be? So in product design, we look at which recipes make up the what? The product. Which recipes make up the product? Recipes, okay, the ingredients that make up the product. And then, so those ingredients in the production rooms, they have what we call production ratios. I was taking some water here. So in production ratios, you will know if it is bread, and what makes up bread? Is it only wheat? What else? Hmm? Yeast, sugar, hmm? Butter. Okay, I'm with some bread producers here. So if you know that those are the recipes, okay, that you need the flour, you need the butter, you also need the sugar, and you need yeast. You can mention the recipes based on which kind of bread you want to produce. So these ingredients have what we call ratios. Ratios are the formula that makes that kind of product. You will find that some bread you put more yeast than others. Others you put a small percentage of butter. Some other breads you put more butter, based on the fractions, or which we call the production ratios. Now, that production ratio, which we call the fraction, is what you maintain to make sure that you're producing the same taste of the bread all through. by quantity. How much is the butter? How much is the yeast? How much is the wheat in the bread? The milk. How much is the milk there? Those percentages are what we are calling ratios. So these ratios should remain the same if you're producing that very bread every day. And actually, in some companies, I hear that there is a bread factory here where the owner is the one who mixes, is the one who knows which fractions, which ratios mixes, and then after mixing, they tell you you continue with the other process because they don't want to unveil ratios to people they are insecure with. Because you unveil those ratios, it means that you're unveiling the product, the standards. Yeah. So they will have to, you will find somebody who is eating your bread, but it's not made from your factory, and is directly your very, uh, the very size, the very taste, but is producing something else. In some, in some countries, you can patent the ratios and register them like one registers what? A business name. And then whoever, whichever producer wants to come and produce bread, and then he has ratios corresponding exactly like yours, is told that product is already taken. Design your own. Yeah, that is it. You have, you have like a copyright of your product. You copyright the standards. You've seen some Chinese when they come in Uganda, and they are constructing roads. When it comes to those mixers, the vehicles that mix, how much tar or those those things they use in mixing to create the tarmac, they are the ones there. They are the ones who know how much oil you need, how much makes actually that tarmac. But when it comes to compacting, it comes to grading the road, there other people can can join up and yeah, yeah, yeah. So each time you want a road as strong as the other, you don't know what are the standards and the ratios that create make it. So you have got to call them. And you have heard in the army where some people say you don't unveil every skill to the trainee. That when the trainee turns around to kick you, you have a style that you didn't teach. Mm. Mm. Uh-huh. Mm. Okay. So it can be something possible, but usually the the challenge it has is that the rules of production tells us that you've got to unveil some data to customers or consumers, the consumer rights, that consumers have the right to know about the recipes you used in producing the product they are going to consume. Now, if it is water, you've got to tell us whether there is magnesium and what percentage. You've got to tell us whether there is zinc. You've read on some of these products, and you see ingredients. There's that section that they indicate ingredients. That's information they can unveil to you. But there is some formula that they will not tell you. Yes. At what temperature do they do they have to keep it, and what actually they blend together to come up with that 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 kind of flavor. They will not tell you, but basic information for consumer usage, that one they unveil. So that is in standards. They are those standards you have to follow, and you have got to define the production ratios, and usually those ones are kept as confidential to the producer to still remain with the production rights. It's only that it is that in health, they say in health, because it touches lives. When you invent a product, inventing means, what does inventing mean? The product has not been there, but you come up with it, like somebody came up with Covidex to arrest the situation of COVID and treat it. So that one is not named. So the World Health Organization is saying you do not need to have rights over what would help the what the world. At least you relieve you make it widely known. But mostly those people, they have to be compensated for inventing such a product. But most organizations don't follow that. I know of a company here that, for example, the Quality Chemicals, Cipla Quality Chemicals Limited. The people there are producing ARVs, but no one else is producing them unless somebody else comes with another ARV way of producing other than them. So there is also that kind of, for us to keep in production and make sure that we are having a grip into the market, let us keep our production standards known only to us, other than opening them out for everybody. So they are those what we call the production standards, and then we also have what we call specifications of size. The other ones were ingredients. Even these ones are production standards, which we call specifications of size, shape. Specifications of size, specifications of the shape of the product, and the general outlook. You've seen how the lamps, okay, the rear lights of the Mercedes Benz are those curved lights behind the Mercedes Benz. Possibly they are the ones making them. I've seen Mercedes Benz's, the lights behind have some grooves in them, behind them. Okay, on them. That's how they have decided their shapes to be. So in production, there is also decision on production. What are what could be the possible shape to take, and also the colors to take. When you look at products produced such as by Apple, that is Macintosh, Apple. They like mostly gray and white. Have you seen Apple that is black? Apple computers, iPhones, which are black. Mm, okay. Okay. So they are also color specific. We want it, but in what? In what color? So they decide. Then shape. There is shape. There is color. If it is a product, there is also that decision on flavor. So some products which are directed are flavored. I don't know whether people dress on perfumes here, but I hear people who are perfume sensitive can smell and know that perfume is by this product, this company. Muhammad and Hilda. Uh-huh. They are those people. For me, I don't have that gift. I don't have that tenet. But many people have it. Some people have it. And they are actually, I heard, is it which perfume company? I've just forgotten the name. That they hire people who are experts in, they have studied smelling. And they send them to go to the market, to the community, to smell on people and know which smell people like most, and then come back and I don't know how they explain to the producers. I don't know how they do explain to the producer that this is the smell I want to be produced. Or yourself, you have to produce it. So that is what they do. Now that is color specific, and in other products which are weight specific, which are concerned with weight. Of course, most of the producers have to know how heavy the product is, including vehicles. They have to know how heavy the vehicle is, because there are some vehicles that cannot be driven across some bridges. They are heavier than the strength of those bridges. So you can read somewhere and say vehicles which are more than 100, with they say 100 tons don't cross. But so because you're driving the vehicle which you know their weight, you don't cross. Otherwise you cross and break the bridge, you damage, and you get damaged as well, and even your vehicle. Others, they also specify the dimensions, length, width, and the height in in the products that they produce, so that when somebody comes to your product and asks how wide and the width is this product, you can tell that is this feet in a width, height this feet, and the length this feet. Then you can know how many you need, either to occupy a room or a place, so you can give accountability. So producers usually have those defined, even if they appear uh, they appear they are not fundamental. So that is, then others keep on even putting into consideration volumes. So usually you find on the market that those bags you buy are they feed them with some content to make them appear like they are what? They are real bags for you to use. But the producers are also looking at the volume. If this product is to be shipped or transported, if its volume is big, it means it will occupy more space, and therefore it will become very costly to the consumer, because it will be occupying more space in shipping. So they usually make sure that as they are producing, they they can fold those bags in such a way that they are like just small sheets packaged together. Other products which are bulky to transport, producers are thinking of making sure that the the parts can easily be be arranged, uh, can easily be organized together. And you've seen some phones where the box is organized in such a way that the headsets are sitting somewhere, and it's like where they were producing the phone, they were also having in the mind that there are some headsets that are going to sit along with it, so that it becomes cheaper to 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 ship the products. Because this product shape and the product volume will also be affecting somewhere during shipping, by creating more burdens. But if it is arrested before, then it becomes less costly. Now that those are what we call production standards. Before the production process begins, these standards have got to be defined. The standards have to be defined. Then now, with the other, to make sure that there is quality, is we are looking at quality of products, because the quality of the product can also depend on what were the standards you agreed upon to produce that, because that will also determine what is the quality of the product. Beyond, even before the product gets into the production process, quality is already determined by standards agreed upon. Maybe before we go to something else, these standards mostly you may there are standards which are called universal standards, and also there are standards which you call customized standards. Now, universal standards are standards that everyone who is producing a product which falls in that category has got to follow. For example, if you're producing a computer and there is somewhere where the headsets have to fit, you cannot say, because I'm producing my computer, let me set let me set my own port, or that hole where the headsets go, and you set it that is yours. That means that everyone who buys the computer will have to go to buy the headsets from you. So can you afford to supply headsets everywhere in the world? That means you're creating also a burden to the customers. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yes. Now they have type C. Mm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So it could be one of the reasons why they are not in wide supply. In their brand is not in it's not common. That's why people will always, even those buying machines are always saying, if I bought this machine, can I easily access spare parts? So if they are hard, the person can avoid to actually get your product. Unless you've decided to take it and you know the risks and you can shoulder the risks. But if you can't, then you can go by what we call international standards. So the International Standards Organization called ISO, you've heard of ISO, has standards uh, which it puts up to make sure that when people are producing products, at least those standards are followed. For example, the international signs, the symbol for battery, for the battery, that thing that looks like a Z, everyone has to adopt it. Otherwise, you go on the phone and the symbol is different, yet it means battery, and then you are struggling to interpret it. So those international standards are actually put into place. Green means go, and red means stop. So you can't be a producer of those traffic lights or motor vehicle lights, and then for you set your own color. Yeah, because you want to be different. So you have to obey with the with the with the standards. Even these iron sheets have sizes that are standard gauges. It is 32, it's 32. Then you don't produce 17, and then which are not within the international standards. It means that if somebody roofs and there is a portion remaining, then we will struggle to find a replacement to fill up because the size that is remaining is hard to define. So you can roof with roofings, and if another part remains, you go to Uganda BAT and complete that part because they are following the same standards of gauges. So those standards are obeyed worldwide. Even those producing needles and all that, they have sizes. I even had staplers. You have inches, and everybody has got to follow those standards. Now, when it comes to initiating production, then you go into quality of raw material, raw material quality. So you've heard that producers tend to stick to usually tend to stick to a single supplier for consistent tests. For consistent tests. So quality of raw material is very key in in determining the quality of the product to be produced. Of course, materials quality is also relative to the quality of the finished product. That's why usually if it is outsourcing raw materials and you're not producing them, you call it outsourcing. So you have a contract or an agreement with somebody to deliver raw materials, the supplier. Then that supplier has got to make sure that every time they are importing or supplying to you those raw materials, they are still within the very standards that you agreed upon, which we call the specifications. In maize, there's what we call moisture content. Moisture content is the amount of moisture or water content the endosperm or the grain has, that you could dry your maize and make sure it is dry, but when they put it on moisture content uh, measurements, they find that the moisture content is high, then the price can be low, because for you to produce pure flour, then maize should tend to zero moisture content. I have my friend who got a contract to supply the World Food Organization metric tons of maize, and had not known that moisture content was key. So he bought all the maize, but on determining moisture content, was told this maize we can't take it off. Its moisture content is very high. So raw material quality determines also the the, 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 the quality of the products. So they always producers are making sure that if there is a supplier, that supplier is provided with the specifications of the quality of the raw material, and they even test each time they get a batch to see whether that quality is what the supplier is still complying with. Others who are insecure are resorting to primary production. You find it is still is it steel and tube. If steel and tube does not want to import steel, then it has got to get involved in extracting it from the ground, mining, to protect quality. That if you delegate it, the one you delegate to may not actually meet the standards that you want. So you produce it locally, or you get involved in producing it, just like Akira Sugar Works does. It has its own farms which it relies on. But if it is there is an outgrower, they even want to rule over that outgrower, your farm. They they keep telling you this is not yet ready. Don't harvest. If you want to harvest the sugar canes, tell us that you're going to harvest. We send a person to come and prove that actually they are ready to be harvested, still to protect the quality of the raw materials. Then in the production process, mostly it is health and then and safety. Health and safety. If if it is food related and food and drinks, they call it F&B, food and beverage. It is safety. Safety, for example, I've been following up the production of flour. In producing flour, there is a there is a stage which they call uh, threshing, removing dust, and also if there are some pieces of grass, they remove. There's another stage which they call uh, this stoning, removing stones. Those are for safety, or safety and health move together. Then there's another phase they call um, uh, where they use magnets to remove metals. In case there is any piece of metal hanging within the maize, they remove the metal, so that when the final product is made, again you don't have people eating the flour, or eating the product, consuming the product, and then they suffer from they call it cancer, because those metals can be cancerous. And then stones, you have appendix issues. So all those are arrested within the process. For you to be accredited by the National Bureau of Standards, you've got to show that that process that you're undertaking is first of all safe, and also it is secure. That's in most cases. If it is food and beverage, they make sure that people are not touching anywhere their hands. You've gone to some machines where some people scoop with their hands, they touch the flour, and to feel whether it is soft, then they press back. That kind of system, if it is national uh, UNBS assessing, you have to show that there is a machine which will scoop, and there's somewhere with a machine which is going to test and see the quality, other than your hands and touching it somewhere when it is food food and beverage. So by touching, it means you're also contaminating. Then the production environment as well. If it is producing that sensitive in that sensitivity, you've got to close off. There shouldn't be windows. That's why they put iron sheets which are transparent up, and then for aeration they use fans. Otherwise, this air is contaminated. When air touches some of those products, they get contaminated. So you're making sure that there is quality output, and making sure that the production environment is 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 safe. Then when it comes to machines that are involved in production, the production machinery, those machines should not be the parts where, for example, if it is food that we are taking here, the parts that are running should not be, again, transmitting oil and exhaust to the food. That's how they make sure that you keep replacing them, but those parts should not be oilable, because that is really it is food. So that's elimination of contamination within the production system. The other thing is leakages, leakages, managing leakages. Others call them um, flaws, production flaws, where when you are producing somewhere, things are like you've seen in the common factories of there are they factories, the maize milling machines, where somewhere they have tied with a polythene to prevent leakage, some falling out, and sometimes they see that what has fallen down is a big is some quantity. They pour they scoop off the top ones and pour back to avoid the losses. So those leakages can also result into quality contamination, and thus there are some factories where you see their process, you can never know that this, you cannot know that they are producing this thing unless it is smelling, or you can't see any leakages on the ground. So those are usually arrested in the production process, but they also rely on what you call technology that brings into automation of systems, where either use rollers or what conveyor belting systems. You've had rollers and conveyor belting. You will see the production of, for example, water, where instead of somebody coming to pick a bottle and move it to the box, they are sliding on, yeah, they are sliding on a belt. Boxes are sliding on rollers, so that you avoiding human hands. In some countries, they are even eliminating people. Sit on the computer, click, the machine picks. If it is a car to be repaired, picks the spanner which is appropriate, unscrews, removes it, and puts back something better, screws back, and then, because people they set hygienic systems, but they may not obey them fully. So if you can do it using a machine, the machine can entirely obey. So what else can be done in the production system to have quality assurance? Yes, skilled workers. Okay, that can also affect quality of production. Mhm. Now adopting new technology. Okay. So you have also heard of what we call laboratories. Laboratories. Even if people are producing metals, they have a lab. Those who are producing cement, like I had recently, I saw, I think sometimes I keep sharing with you something from TikTok, keep getting some information here and there. Where even if it is cement, there is a laboratory, the producers are producing, but at each stage, they tap off and then put in the laboratory to check and see whether the production standards that were agreed upon are still the ones that are running through the production process. And then each shift, you call it a production shift, each shift they produce, like these ones are producing from, usually shifts run for 8 hours. For companies which are very busy, they have 3 shifts a day to cover the 24 hours. So each shift that goes and they have produced goods from that shift, you've got to register a batch number, a batch, that this production shift has produced this batch, then they tag it a batch number. In case in the market, customers start complaining that this your product is bad. You can ask, read for us that number on the bag or on the product. Okay. Then another one complains, read for us. Then they start assessing the batch numbers. In case they find that the batch numbers are the same, they can recall those batch numbers from the market and substitute them with the better product. Otherwise, if you just produce and there are no batch numbers, in case there is an error on one day or a certain shift, you can't know. And almost everywhere, whoever has even the good one will think it is among those that were not good. So that is batch management in production. So in our conclusion, concluding this session, we've been looking at production quality, and that is production quality management, where we started with production standards, that's before production is taking place, and those standards are already usually tailored to the needs of the people, or also looking at the competitors' weaknesses to design a product. And then we also saw that when we are initiating production, so we have already taken the standards, then we should also decide on the raw material. So the quality of the raw materials determines much on the quality of the finished product. And producers are ensuring that the standards for raw material inputs are clearly defined with suppliers, and if they are very insecure with how the suppliers will handle it by outsourcing, they themselves, the producers, get involved in the extraction of the raw materials by creating farmers call it on growing, is in growing, they call it in growing. If they are to outsource from others, they call it outgrowing. So others, it is mining or self-extraction. Then we have also looked at the production process and seen that in production process, the production process has to be safe and also has to be secure. What we've not mentioned in security is that nobody who is not part of the production team should get associated in the production line, on any of the production line. That's why if you are a tourist, okay, you are coming for field work, you've got to notify when you're even dressed in some attires that will not cause quality deformation, so that quality is maintained by even human resource. In some institutions, they even protect the production line from being inspected by other people, because it is also another way of inspecting to 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 like inspecting and getting access to privacy of how the production of a certain company is handled. That's why in some companies you don't go and take pictures. Only see. At least when you tell stories, people will start to imagine how things were and they fade out. But permanency, no, this place don't take any pictures. They are protecting their confidentiality. Hmm. Hmm. Ah. They don't allow to take pictures. Mm. Mm. But usually in the marketplace it would be open. Mm. Unless people are protecting their disorder. But when products get to the market, then it would be open. Like some people have showrooms, yeah. At least when people take pictures there, it would tell the community that products are here. But if they are really protecting it in the shops, in trade centers, possibly there could be something wrong. They are hiding. So that is what we've also had. There are laboratories in any organization that involved in production should have a laboratory that keeps on testing. Now, if it was a Jewish production company and each time they are producing, you go and sip to see whether it is testing. You get a little sample, put it in and test, and the machines gives you the count. This is this much, rather than relying on natural means of testing. Mm. If it is a metal, you go and try to bend it to see its strength, to be a lot of energy. But if there is a machine that can test strength of the what of the of the material, tensile stress, tensile strain, those things you studied in. And young as modulus. Okay, you can read further, but there is another section called total quality management. Total quality. Now that is looking beyond the production lines. Total quality management. You will find total quality management. I've even posted its tutorial there. Thank you. I wish you good luck. I had somebody